The stars looked different when you could travel between them in minutes instead of years. Commander Veltar pressed her scaled hand against the viewing port of the Stellar Whisper and watched the yellow star grow larger as her ship approached, the third planet in this unremarkable system. "Dropping out of warp now, Commander," announced her navigation officer, Crix. The familiar hum of the warp drive faded to silence, replaced by the gentle thrum of conventional engines. Veltar nodded and moved to her command chair. The bridge around her was a marvel of Zephyrian engineering, smooth curves of biometal that responded to thought, holographic displays that showed information in 3 dimensions, and most importantly, the heavily shielded warp core that made their civilization the masters of the galaxy. "What do we know about these humans?" she asked her science officer, Kixera. The younger Zephyrian pulled up a holographic display showing the blue and green planet ahead of them. "Primitive carbon-based life forms, Commander. They've achieved basic spaceflight and nuclear technology, but they're still confined to their home system. Our scouts estimate they're at least 500 years away from developing any form of faster-than-light travel." Veltar smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. The Zephyrian Confederacy had been exploring the galaxy for over 3,000 years. They had seen dozens of species at this exact stage of development. The pattern was always the same: excitement at first contact, wonder at advanced technology, and then decades of careful guidance until the species was ready to join galactic civilization. "Any signs of aggression?" Veltar asked. "None, Commander. They seem peaceful. Actually, they appear to be quite curious about us. They've been broadcasting mathematical sequences and scientific data since our scout ship made contact last week." That was normal too. Young species always tried to prove their intelligence when they first met their galactic neighbors. It was touching, really, like children trying to impress their parents with finger paintings. "Very well. Begin standard first contact procedures, and make sure all our systems are properly shielded. We don't want to accidentally contaminate their development with our technology." The Stellar Whisper moved toward Earth, its warp signature completely hidden behind 7 layers of quantum encryption and dark matter shielding. The Confederacy had learned long ago that exposing primitive species to advanced technology too quickly could destroy their natural development. Better to guide them slowly, carefully until they were ready. On Earth, Dr. Sarah Chen floated in the zero gravity of the International Space Station's newest edition, a diplomatic module hastily constructed when the aliens had agreed to meet. Through the reinforced window, she could see the alien ship approaching. It was beautiful in an alien way, all flowing curves and surfaces that seemed to bend light around them. "Remember," she said to her team through the communication system, "act impressed but not overwhelmed. Ask basic questions but not too basic. We want them to see us as intelligent but primitive." Dr. James Rodriguez, floating nearby with his tablet, nodded. "The gravity sensors are already picking up some interesting readings from their ship. Whatever they're using for propulsion, it's affecting space-time in ways we've never seen before." Sarah smiled. The aliens probably thought humans were just another backward species taking their first steps into the galaxy. They had no idea that Earth scientists had been working on theoretical faster-than-light travel for decades. The only thing missing had been proof that it was actually possible. Now floating 50 kilometers away, was that proof? "Dr. Chen," called out Lieutenant Commander Park from the communication station, "they're requesting permission to come aboard." "Granted. And remember, everyone, we're just simple humans meeting our first aliens. Try to look appropriately amazed." The docking was smooth and professional. The alien ship extended a flexible tube that connected perfectly with the human docking port. Moments later, the airlock hissed open and Commander Veltar stepped through. She was tall, nearly 7 feet, with scaled blue-green skin and large, intelligent eyes. Her movements were graceful despite the artificial gravity. Behind her came 2 other aliens, presumably her officers. "Greetings," Veltar said in perfect English. Her voice had a musical quality that made the words sound almost like singing. "I am Commander Veltar of the Zephyrian Confederacy. We come in peace, seeking friendship with your species." Sarah pushed off from the wall and floated forward, stopping herself with practiced ease. "Welcome to our station, Commander. I'm Dr. Sarah Chen, representing Earth and humanity. We're honored to meet you. The pleasantries continued for several minutes. The aliens were polite, patient, and clearly following some kind of established protocol for first contact. They asked about human culture, government, and technology. Sarah answered honestly but carefully, making sure to emphasize humanity's peaceful nature and curiosity about the galaxy. Your species shows great promise, Veltar said eventually. In time, perhaps in a few centuries, you may be ready to join the greater galactic community. A few centuries? Sarah asked, trying to sound disappointed rather than amused. That seems like such a long time. Technological development cannot be rushed, Kixara spoke up. Your species has achieved much, but faster than light travel. Requires understanding of forces that take millennia to master. Behind Sarah, Rodriguez was quietly taking readings with his tablet. To the aliens, it probably looked like a primitive recording device. In reality, it was connected to quantum computers hidden throughout the station, analyzing every bit of data they could gather about the alien ship. Could you tell us how you traveled between the stars to reach us? Sarah asked innocently. We've theorized about faster-than-light travel, but we've never seen it in practice. Veltar and her officers exchanged glances. I'm afraid the principles involved are quite complex, the commander said diplomatically. Perhaps one day when your species has developed further. Of course, Sarah said quickly. We understand. We're just curious about the possibilities. The meeting continued for 2 hours. The aliens were friendly but clearly condescending, treating the humans like intelligent children who needed careful guidance. They shared basic information about galactic civilization, the Confederacy, and other species humanity might meet someday. But they said nothing useful about their technology. When the aliens finally returned to their ship, Sarah's team gathered around Rodriguez's tablet. The physicist's eyes were bright with excitement. Did you get anything useful? Sarah asked. More than useful, Rodriguez said. Their ship is generating gravitational anomalies consistent with space-time manipulation. And the energy signatures. Sarah, I think they're actually folding space around their ship. Folding space? Think about it like this. Instead of moving through space, they're bringing their destination closer to them. It's brilliant, and it's exactly what Dr. Kim's team has been working on in Seoul. Sarah felt her heart rate increase. How close are we to understanding it? With conventional technology? Decades, maybe centuries, just like they said. But if we could see their drive in action, watch the space-time distortions in real time. Rodriguez paused. We might be able to figure out the basic principles much faster. Through the station's windows, the alien ship hung motionless against the stars. Inside its heavily shielded hull was the technology that would change everything for humanity. The aliens thought they were safely sharing their presence while keeping their secrets. They had no idea that humans had never been good at accepting limitations. Keep monitoring, Sarah said quietly, and get me a secure line to every physics lab on Earth. If we're going to figure this out, we'll need everyone working together. The first day of humanity's future had begun. 3 days had passed since first contact, and Commander Veltar was pleased with how well the meetings were progressing. The humans were exactly what she had expected, curious, intelligent, but clearly overwhelmed by the reality of galactic civilization. They asked simple questions about star travel and listened with wide eyes when she described the wonders they might see someday. Commander, Kixara said as she entered the bridge, I've been reviewing our cultural exchange data. The humans seem particularly interested in our travel capabilities. Veltar nodded from her command chair. That's normal for species at their development level. They're probably wondering if they'll ever leave their home system. She paused, considering. Perhaps it's time for a demonstration. A demonstration, Commander? Something small and safe. Show them what's possible when they're ready for it. Veltar brought up a star chart on the main display. We could make a short warp jump to their outer asteroid belt, collect some mineral samples as a gift, let them see that faster than light. Travel is real, not just theory. Kixara looked uncertain. Are you sure that's wise? Our protocols recommend minimal technological exposure during first contact. A simple demonstration from a safe distance, Veltar said firmly. Our warp core has 7 layers of encryption and shielding. Even if they had sensors pointed at us, which they don't, they couldn't detect anything useful. And seeing the possibility might inspire their future generations. She opened a communication channel to the human station. Dr. Chen's face appeared on the screen, floating in the station's zero-gravity environment. Dr. Chen, Veltar said warmly, we would like to offer your people a small demonstration of goodwill. We're going to collect some mineral samples from your outer asteroid belt as a gift. You'll be able to observe our ship's capabilities from a safe distance. Sarah's face lit up with excitement that seemed genuine. That would be amazing, Commander. We'd be honored to witness your technology in action. Excellent. We'll begin in 1 hour. Please feel free to observe with whatever instruments you have available. After closing the communication, Veltar turned to her crew. Take us to the asteroid belt. Standard warp jump, minimal power. Let's give these humans something to dream about. On the space station, Sarah Chen was anything but calm. The moment the communication ended, she was moving through the station's corridors with practiced zero-gravity pushes. Rodriguez, she called out as she entered the main laboratory. They're going to demonstrate their warp drive. The physicist looked up from a bank of computers, his eyes wide. When? 1 hour. Get on the emergency channel to every observatory, every physics lab, every gravitational wave detector on Earth and in orbit. We need every sensor we have pointed at that ship when it moves. Rodriguez was already typing furiously. Sol is online, CERN is standing by, and the laser interferometer arrays are ready. What about the quantum computers? Already connected. Dr. Kim's team has been running theoretical models for 3 days straight. Sarah grabbed a handhold as the station rotated slightly. James, this is our chance. If we can capture the real-time data of a working warp drive, we might be able to crack it, Rodriguez finished. Sarah, are you sure about this? If we reverse engineer their technology, this quickly, it'll change everything. Sarah looked out the window at the alien ship. Everything's already changed, James. The question is whether we're going to spend the next 500 years waiting for permission to join the galaxy, or whether we're going to figure out how to get there ourselves. Across Earth's surface, and in orbit around the planet, dozens of facilities came online. Radio telescopes swiveled toward the outer solar system. Gravitational wave detectors calibrated their instruments. Particle accelerators prepared to measure the tiniest changes in spacetime. For the first time in human history, an entire planet's scientific community was working together with a single goal. Commander Veltar was unaware of the massive sensor array now focused on her ship. The Stellar Whisper moved smoothly away from Earth orbit, its conventional engines carrying it to a safe distance for the warp jump. All systems ready, Commander, reported her navigation officer. Warp core is powered and encrypted. Destination coordinates locked. Initiate warp drive, Veltar ordered. The familiar hum filled the bridge as exotic matter flowed through carefully designed channels. Spacetime began to fold around the ship, creating a bubble of warped reality that would carry them faster than light. The stars shifted, reality blurred, and the Stellar Whisper vanished from normal space. 3 light minutes away, every human sensor in the solar system recorded the impossible. At CERN's facility in Switzerland, Dr. Lisa Park watched data streams flood across her screens. Gravitational waves are off the charts. The space-time distortion is creating ripples. We can measure from here. In Seoul, Dr. Kim Min-jun saw something even more interesting. The energy cascade isn't random, he said to his team. Look at these patterns. The gravitational distortions are following a mathematical sequence. On the space station, Rodriguez stared at his tablet in amazement. Sarah, you need to see this. The warp effect isn't just bending space, it's folding it along specific geometric patterns, like origami, but with reality itself. Sarah pushed herself over to look at the data. Numbers and graphs flowed across the screen, showing energy levels and spatial distortions that shouldn't exist according to human physics. But there they were, real and measurable. It's not brute force, she whispered. They're not overpowering space-time. They're convincing it to fold naturally along existing quantum lines. And look at this, Rodriguez said, highlighting a section of the data. The energy requirements are actually lower than our theoretical models predicted. They're doing this more efficiently than we thought possible. Across the solar system, human scientists were reaching the same conclusion. The alien warp drive wasn't magic. It was advanced engineering based on principles that human physics could understand. 27 minutes later, the stellar whisper reappeared near a large asteroid. The ship's mining beam carved out several samples of rare metals and crystals. Commander Veltar was satisfied with the demonstration. The humans would have seen the ship disappear and reappear, giving them a glimpse of what was possible. What she didn't know was that human scientists had recorded every nanosecond of the warp jump. They had measured the gravitational waves, tracked the energy patterns, and mapped the space-time distortions. And they were already figuring out how to recreate them. Dr. Chen, Rodriguez said quietly as the alien ship began its return journey, I think we can do this. Do what? Build a warp drive. Not in centuries, in days. We have the theoretical framework, we've seen it work, and we have quantum computers that can model the mathematics. He paused, his voice filled with excitement and fear. We could have a working prototype by the end of the week. Sarah felt the world shift around her, and it had nothing to do with the station's rotation. Humanity was about to take its biggest leap since discovering fire. Make the calls, she said quietly. Get every physicist, every engineer, every quantum computer on Earth working on this, and James, yes? Don't tell the aliens what we're doing, not yet. Below them, Earth began its transformation from a single planet species to something the galaxy had never seen before. A civilization that could reverse engineer faster than light travel in less time than it took most species to understand what they were looking at. The demonstration was over, but the real show was just beginning. Commander Veltar smiled as she handed the crystalline asteroid samples to Dr. Chen. The human scientist held the alien minerals with obvious wonder, turning them over in her hands to catch the light. These are beautiful, Commander, Sarah said. Our geologists will be fascinated by their structure. A small gift, Veltar replied. Perhaps one day when your people have developed the ability to travel between stars, you can visit the worlds where such crystals form naturally. Sarah nodded enthusiastically. We'd love that. Your demonstration yesterday was incredible. To see your ship simply disappear and reappear so far away. She shook her head in amazement. It must take enormous amounts of energy. Less than you might think, Kixara said proudly. Zephyrian engineering has perfected the process over millennia. What seems impossible to younger species becomes routine with proper understanding. Behind Sarah's impressed expression was a mind racing, with calculations. 27 hours had passed since the alien demonstration, and those hours had been the most productive in human scientific history. While she made polite conversation with the aliens, thousands of scientists across Earth were working on the most ambitious project humanity had ever attempted. We should return to our ship, Veltar said eventually. Tomorrow we'll discuss potential cultural exchanges and perhaps share some basic star charts of your local region. After the aliens left, Sarah immediately contacted Rodriguez in the laboratory. Status report, James. You're not going to believe this, Sarah. Rodriguez's voice was tired but excited. We've cracked the basic principles. The aliens use exotic matter to create stable micro-wormholes, but we think we can achieve the same result using dark energy manipulation. Sarah felt her heart skip. Are you serious? Dead serious. Dr. Kim's team in Seoul identified the key mathematical relationships. Instead of exotic matter, we can use quantum vacuum fluctuations to destabilize space-time in a controlled way. It's like using a different tool to achieve the same result. How different? Completely different approach, same outcome. The aliens fold space using exotic matter particles. We're going to punch holes in reality using dark energy and quantum field manipulation. Sarah laughed despite herself. That sounds terrifying. It is terrifying, but it works. At least in simulation. Rodriguez paused. Sarah, we're actually going to try this. CERN has cleared their main particle accelerator. We're building a prototype. How long? 18 hours for the basic framework. Another day for testing. If our calculations are right, we could have a working warp drive within 72 hours of seeing theirs. Sarah closed her eyes. 72 hours. The aliens thought humanity was centuries away from this technology, and they might achieve it in 3 days. Do it, she said quietly. Deep beneath the Swiss countryside, CERN's particle accelerator hummed with activity unlike anything in its history. The massive underground ring, normally used for smashing particles together to study the fundamental forces of the universe, had been converted into humanity's first warp drive laboratory. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in the control room, watching displays that showed readings she would have thought impossible a week ago. Dark energy injection is stable, she reported. Quantum field manipulation is holding within acceptable parameters. Around her, scientists from dozens of countries worked frantically. The usual rivalries and bureaucratic barriers had disappeared, overnight replaced by humanity's greatest collaborative effort. Chinese physicists worked alongside American engineers. Russian mathematicians shared calculations with Indian quantum computer specialists. Field distortion detected, called out Dr. Park from her monitoring station. We're getting space-time curvature consistent with the alien readings. The prototype was crude compared to what they had seen from the Stellar Whisper. Where the alien ship used elegant biometal curves and exotic matter containment. Humanity's first warp drive was a collection of superconducting magnets, particle accelerators, and quantum computers held together with engineering determination and emergency funding, but it was working. Test object ready for insertion, announced the engineering team. The test object was a small probe about the size of a basketball, equipped with every sensor they could fit inside its hull. Begin warp field generation, Dr. Vasquez ordered. The accelerator ring blazed with energy as exotic particles raced around its 27-kilometer circumference. Dark energy was harvested from quantum vacuum fluctuations and carefully directed into field generators that had been designed and built in less than 48 hours. Space-time began to bend. Warp bubble forming, reported Dr. Park, her voice tight with concentration. The test probe is being isolated from normal space-time. On the screens around the control room, reality twisted. The probe seemed to shimmer and blur as the warp field enveloped it. Then in a burst of exotic radiation it vanished. Silence filled the control room for several seconds. Probe telemetry? Dr. Vasquez asked. Coming in now, replied the communications technician. The probe is reporting successful translation to the target coordinates. Travel time, 1.3 seconds across a distance that should have taken light 11 minutes. Cheers erupted throughout the control room. Scientists hugged each other, laughed, and cried. Humanity had just achieved faster-than-light travel, but the celebration was brief. They still had work to do. Bring the probe back, Dr. Vasquez ordered. We need to test the return journey and make sure our calculations are stable. The return trip was even smoother. The probe reappeared in the accelerator chamber exactly where it had started, its sensors reporting minimal stress from the translation process. Dr. Vasquez picked up her secure phone and dialed the space station. Dr. Chen, this is Elena at CERN. We did it. On the space station, Sarah felt the world change around her. You built a working warp drive? A crude one, but yes. We can move objects faster than light using our own technology. Elena's voice was filled with exhaustion and triumph. It's not pretty and it requires enormous amounts of power, but it works. How long before you can scale it up? For a human-rated vehicle? Give us another day to refine the field equations and build proper safety systems. We're already working on a modified cargo hauler. Sarah looked out the window at the Stellar Whisper, hanging peacefully in orbit. The aliens had no idea what humanity had accomplished in their shadow. Elena, this is going to change everything. I know. Sarah, what do we do now? Do we tell them? Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Outside, Earth turned slowly beneath the space station, the planet that had just become the second species in known galactic history to independently develop faster-than-light travel. Not yet, she said finally. Let's see how they react when we show them what we've built. Across Earth, the secret spread through scientific communities like wildfire. Humanity had done the impossible. They had reverse-engineered alien technology and improved upon it using completely different scientific principles. The aliens thought they were dealing with a primitive species that would need centuries of careful guidance. Instead, they had accidentally provided the final piece of a puzzle that human scientists had been working on for decades. Commander Veltar reviewed the day's cultural exchange reports, pleased with humanity's continued cooperation and appropriate awe. The species showed promise, but they were clearly far from ready for advanced technology. She had no idea that 3,000 kilometers beneath her ship, humans were preparing to test their second-generation warp drive. A drive that would prove more efficient than anything the Zephyrian Confederacy had ever built. The galaxy was about to become a much more interesting place. Commander Veltar was reviewing star charts in her ready room when every alarm on the bridge began screaming at once. She rushed through the door to find her crew in controlled panic, their scaled faces pale with shock. "Report!" she barked. "Commander," Kixara said, her voice shaking. "We're detecting 3 warp signatures approaching our position. Unknown vessel configuration." Veltar felt ice form in her stomach. "Unknown vessels. That's impossible. We're the only warp-capable ship in this system." "The signatures are crude, inefficient, but they're definitely faster than light propulsion." Kixara's hands moved frantically over her controls. "Commander, they're dropping out of warp. Now." The main screen flickered to life, showing space around the stellar whisper. 3 objects materialized out of the darkness, and Veltar's world shifted beneath her feet. The ships were clearly human in design. Crude metal hulls welded together in geometric patterns, chemical rocket thrusters, primitive radiation shielding. Everything about them screamed of a species barely capable of interplanetary travel, except they had just used faster-than-light propulsion to appear 50 kilometers from her ship. "This is impossible," whispered her navigation officer, Crix. "The humans were barely capable of orbital flight 4 days ago." Veltar stared at the impossible vessels on her screen. Her mind raced through explanations, each more unlikely than the last. Had another species given the humans warp technology? Had the humans somehow stolen it? Had her own ship's security been compromised? The communication system chimed with an incoming message. Dr. Chen's face appeared on the screen, but she wasn't in the space station anymore. She was in what looked like the bridge of one of the impossible human ships. "Commander Veltar," Sarah said with a warm smile. "Thank you for the inspiration. Your demonstration helped us overcome the final theoretical hurdles in our own warp research." "Your own," Veltar began, then stopped. The words wouldn't form properly. "We've been working on spatial manipulation for decades," Sarah continued, conversationally. "Turns out we just needed to see that it was actually possible. Your warp jump gave us the missing pieces we needed to complete our research." Kixara leaned forward urgently. "Commander, I'm reading their drive signatures. They're not using our technology." "What do you mean?" "The energy patterns are completely different. Where we use exotic matter manipulation, they're somehow using quantum vacuum fluctuations and dark energy harvesting." Kixara's voice rose with disbelief. "Commander, they've developed an entirely different approach to faster-than-light travel." Veltar felt the universe reorganize itself around her. In 3,000 years of galactic exploration, the Zephyrian Confederacy had never encountered anything like this. Species either developed warp technology over millennia like they had, or they received it through careful technology transfer from more advanced civilizations. No species had ever reverse-engineered and improved upon warp technology in 72 hours. "Dr. Chen," Veltar said slowly, "how long have you had this capability?" "About 6 hours for a working prototype," Sarah replied cheerfully. "These ships represent our second-generation design. We've managed to improve efficiency by about 40% over our initial tests. 40% more efficient." Veltar's science officer was running frantic scans of the human vessels, and her readings confirmed the impossible. The crude-looking human ships were achieving stable warp fields with significantly less energy than the stellar whisper required. This is impossible, Crick said quietly. Our technology took 3 millennia to perfect. They've had faster-than-light travel for less than a day. Commander, Kiksara called out urgently. We're receiving multiple communications from Confederacy space. Other ships are reporting similar encounters with human vessels. Veltar's legs felt weak. Other encounters? Human ships have appeared, in the Altair system near Vega, and in the Perseus arm trading routes. They're everywhere, Commander. Somehow in the past few hours, this species has gone from being confined to their home system to having ships across the galaxy. On the communication screen, Sarah's expression grew more serious. Commander, we need to discuss some changes in our relationship. You see, humanity has never been very good at accepting limitations on what we can achieve. Behind Sarah, her bridge crew worked at stations that looked primitive but were clearly functional. The entire vessel hummed with power that felt different from Zephyrian technology. Rawer, more direct, like controlled chaos instead of elegant harmony. We appreciate your cautious approach to technological development, Sarah continued. But humans have always believed that knowledge should be shared freely. We're transmitting our warp drive specifications to any civilization that wants them. You're what? Veltar managed to say. Sharing the technology. Our approach uses materials and energy sources that most spacefaring species already have access to. Unlike exotic matter manipulation, dark energy harvesting can be achieved with relatively basic quantum mechanics. Sarah paused. We thought the galaxy might benefit from having options. Kiksara was monitoring communications frequencies, her face growing paler by the moment. Commander, we're receiving transmissions from dozens of species. The humans are broadcasting their warp drive schematics on every communication channel, in known space. The implications hit Veltar like a physical blow. For 3,000 years, the Zephyrian Confederacy had maintained their position as the galaxy's primary power through their monopoly on efficient, faster-than-light travel. They were the gatekeepers, deciding which species could access warp technology and when. But humanity had just made that monopoly obsolete. Dr. Chen, Veltar said carefully, perhaps we should discuss this development more thoroughly. The galaxy has certain protocols for the introduction of new technologies. Sarah's smile didn't waver, but her eyes hardened slightly. With respect, Commander, humanity isn't asking for permission. We're a spacefaring species now, with technology we developed ourselves. We'll be happy to work with the Confederacy as equals, but we won't be managed like children. As equals? Crix whispered. On her screen, Kiksara was tracking the spread of human transmissions across the galaxy. Species that had been under Confederacy protection for centuries were suddenly receiving detailed instructions for building their own warp drives. The careful balance of galactic power that had existed for millennia was crumbling in real time. Commander, Sarah said, her voice warm but firm, I hope we can continue to be friends, but you should know that human ships are now stationed in every major system in this part of the galaxy. We're not here as conquerors. We're here as engineers and teachers. Anyone who wants to learn our technology is welcome to it. Veltar realized that everything had changed. The humans hadn't just achieved faster-than-light travel. They had become the most disruptive force the galaxy had seen in recorded history. Dr. Chen, she said quietly, what do you want? The same thing we've always wanted, Commander. To explore, to learn, to meet new people and share knowledge. Sarah's expression softened. We'd like to be part of galactic civilization, but as partners, not students. The communication ended, leaving the bridge of the Stellar Whisper in stunned silence. Around them, space was filled with impossible human ships that had materialized from nothing, carrying technology that shouldn't exist, operated by a species that had refused to accept the limitations the galaxy had placed on them. Commander, Kiksara said quietly, what do we do now? Veltar looked at the human ships on her screen, their crude hulls somehow managing to project an air of confident competence. In 4 days, humanity had gone from being a protected developing species to being the most unpredictable power in known space. We adapt, she said finally, and we hope we can keep up. The age of Zephyrian dominance was over. The age of humanity had begun. The emergency session of the Zephyrian Confederacy High Council, convened in the Great Crystal Dome on their homeworld of Zephys Prime. Representatives from across the galaxy attended via quantum communication, their holographic forms shimmering around the circular chamber. High Chancellor Vexna called the session to order with grim ceremony. Fellow council members, we face an unprecedented crisis. In the span of 4 local days, a species we classified as primitive has not only achieved faster than light travel, but has fundamentally altered the balance of galactic power. Murmurs of distress rippled through the assembled representatives. For 3,000 years, the Confederacy had maintained order through careful control of advanced technology. The revelation that humans had not only bypassed this control, but had improved upon Confederacy technology, was shaking the foundation of their civilization. The humans are calling it open-source warp technology, reported Intelligence Director Zalthek. They're freely distributing complete technical specifications to any species that requests them. 17 civilizations have already successfully tested human warp drives. Chancellor Vexna's scales darkened with stress. 17 civilizations in 4 days. Director, how is this possible? Our own development took millennia. The human approach is fundamentally different from ours, Zalthek explained. Where we manipulate exotic matter, they brute force their way through space-time using quantum vacuum manipulation. It's crude but effective, and it requires materials that most spacefaring species already possess. In the Perseus trading routes, Captain Veltar was learning this lesson firsthand. Her ship hung in space near what had once been the Confederacy's most important fuel depot, watching in amazement as ships from a dozen different species performed warp jumps using technology they had built in their own shipyards. The crude human design had been adapted and improved by each species. The crystalline Vorthan had grown their warp cores from living crystal. The mechanical Kepri had built distributed drive systems throughout their hull structures. The gaseous ethereals had somehow created warp fields using controlled atmospheric manipulation. Every adaptation was different, but they all worked. Commander, Kixara reported from her science station, I'm detecting 43 active warp signatures in this system alone. 6 months ago, we were the only warp-capable vessel within 10 light years. Veltar nodded grimly. The galaxy had become unrecognizable overnight. Trade routes that had taken the Confederacy centuries to establish were now crowded with ships from species that had never left their home systems before. Ancient territorial boundaries meant nothing when any civilization could build faster-than-light vessels in their own workshops. Incoming transmission, announced her communications officer. It's from Dr. Chen. Sarah's face appeared on the main screen. She was aboard a new vessel, sleeker than the crude ships that had first appeared near Earth. Human engineering was advancing rapidly now that they had working warp technology to experiment with. Commander Veltar, Sarah said warmly, I hope you're adjusting well to the new galaxy. Dr. Chen, Veltar replied carefully. Your people have certainly made their mark on galactic civilization. We try to be helpful. Sarah's smile was genuine but held an edge of steel. I'm calling because we've received some concerning reports from Confederacy space. It seems some of your officials are having trouble accepting the new situation. Veltar felt a chill. What kind of trouble? 3 Confederacy battle groups have moved to blockade systems where human technology transfers are taking place. Your people seem to think they can prevent the spread of warp technology through military force. The image on the screen shifted to show tactical displays. Human ships were positioned throughout key systems, not threatening but clearly present. Their crude appearance was deceptive. Intelligence reports suggested that human warp drives were now operating at efficiency levels that exceeded Confederacy standards. Dr. Chen, Veltar said slowly, surely you understand that rapid technological change can be destabilizing. Oh, we understand perfectly, Sarah replied. That's why we've taken steps to ensure stability. The tactical display expanded, showing the true scope of human deployment across the galaxy. There weren't dozens of human ships, there were thousands. In the 4 days since they had achieved warp travel, humanity had launched the largest exploration and colonization effort in galactic history. Commander, humanity learned something important from our first contact with your people. Sarah continued. We learned that the galaxy is much smaller than we thought, and that isolation is just another limitation to overcome. On Zephyrus Prime, High Chancellor Vexna was receiving similar reports. Human ships had appeared in every major system, every important trade route, every strategic location the Confederacy had spent millennia securing. But they weren't conquering. They were establishing embassies, trade outposts, and technology transfer centers. They're offering to teach our own technology to species we've been protecting for centuries, complained Defense Minister Korthak. The Villani just built their own warp drive using human specifications. The Villani, they were barely capable of orbital mechanics last month. And how many species have accepted human technology? Asked the Chancellor. Intelligence Director Zalthek consulted his reports. 47 confirmed successful implementations, with another 63 species requesting assistance. Chancellor, at this rate, every spacefaring civilization in the galaxy will have independent warp capability within a standard year. The implications were staggering. The Confederacy's entire power structure was based on being the primary source of faster-than-light technology. Without that monopoly, they were just another spacefaring species among hundreds. What of our military response? The Chancellor asked. Defense Minister Korthak's expression was grim. Ineffective. Human ships are faster, more efficient, and appear to be more numerous than our intelligence estimates suggested. Our battle groups are finding themselves outmaneuvered by vessels that look like they were built in industrial workshops. Because they were, Zalthek added. Human manufacturing capability is extraordinary. They're not building ships in traditional shipyards. They're converting their industrial infrastructure to produce warp-capable vessels at unprecedented rates. Back near Earth, Commander Veltar was witnessing this industrial miracle firsthand. Human ships weren't elegant like Confederacy vessels, but they were effective. Standardized hulls, modular components, and mass production techniques had allowed humanity to build a galactic fleet in the time it would take the Confederacy to construct a single capital ship. Dr. Chen, Veltar said, what does humanity want? From the galaxy? The same thing every sentient species wants, Commander. To explore, to grow, to meet new people and learn new things. Sarah paused. The difference is that we've never been willing to wait for permission to pursue those goals. On the screen, the tactical display showed human ships arriving in systems across the galaxy. Each carried the same message: free technology, open knowledge sharing, and an invitation to join a new galactic community based on cooperation rather than control. Your Confederacy has done important work maintaining galactic stability, Sarah continued. But stability built on technological monopoly isn't really stability. It's just control wearing a different name. Veltar realized that she was witnessing the end of everything she had known about galactic civilization. The careful hierarchies, the controlled development, the gradual integration of new species, all of it was being swept away by a species that saw impossible as just another engineering problem to solve. What happens now? Veltar asked. Now we build something better, Sarah said simply. A galaxy where species advance based on their capabilities, not on someone else's permission, where knowledge is shared freely instead of hoarded, where the only limitation on what a civilization can achieve is their own imagination. The transmission ended, leaving Veltar alone with her thoughts. Around her ship, vessels from dozens of species performed warp jumps that would have been impossible a week ago. The galaxy was transforming faster than anyone could track. On Zephyrus Prime, High Chancellor Vexna made the decision that would define the Confederacy's future. Open communications with the human leadership, she ordered. If we cannot stop this revolution, we must join it. The age of controlled galactic development was over. Humanity had shattered the old order not through conquest or force, but through the simple act of sharing knowledge freely with anyone willing to learn. In their first week as a galactic species, humans had taught the galaxy a lesson that would echo through the ages. Never underestimate a species that refuses to accept limitations on what they can achieve. The stars belong to everyone now. Commander Vrak stood by the large window on the observation deck of his ship. The blue and green planet called Earth hung in the darkness of space below him. For many years, this small world had been a problem for the Galactic Council. Many ships sent to conquer it never returned. No one knew why. Vrax's 4 arms were crossed over his chest. His silver skin reflected the soft purple lights of the ship. He was worried. The High Council had given him a dangerous job. Find out why no alien force ever came back from Earth. "Commander, we are in position," said Officer Lenz, his second in command. "Our ship cannot be seen by Earth technology." "Good," Vrax said. "Begin the observation mission. No contact with the humans. I want to understand these creatures first." Lenz nodded and walked back to his station. The crew, all members of the Zorlian race, moved with purpose around the bridge. They were the best scouts in the galaxy, chosen for this special mission. "Sir, initial scans show the humans have very basic space travel. They have not even settled their own moon properly," reported Science Officer Mira. "Their weapons are primitive. They mostly use chemical explosives and basic energy weapons." Vrax frowned. "Then why has no invasion force ever returned? There must be something we are missing." "Perhaps the reports were wrong," suggested Lenz. 17. "Different species have tried to conquer Earth, all failed." "That is not a mistake," Vrax said firmly. Down on Earth, in a small observatory in the mountains of Colorado, Dr. Peter Johnson yawned and rubbed his tired eyes. It was almost midnight, but he wanted to finish checking the strange readings he had found earlier. "You should go home, Pete," said Nancy Carter, his research assistant. She was cleaning her glasses with the edge of her lab coat. "Whatever it is will still be there tomorrow." Peter shook his head. "These readings don't make sense. It's like something big is up there, but it doesn't show up on the regular scans." Nancy looked at the computer screen. "Could be a glitch. The equipment is pretty old." "Maybe," Peter said. He wasn't convinced. "But what if it's not?" Nancy put her hand on his shoulder. "Then it will still be there tomorrow. Come on, I'll buy you breakfast in the morning." Peter smiled and nodded. "All right, you win. Let me just send this data to Bill at NASA. Maybe he can take a look." In space, the Zorlian ship moved silently in orbit. Inside, Commander Vrax watched videos of humans. He saw them fighting wars, building cities, playing sports, and making art. The more he watched, the more confused he became. "They are so violent, even to each other," he said to Mira. "Yet they also create beautiful things. They seem so emotional." "Their biology is unusual," Mira replied. "They evolved on a high-gravity world with extreme weather and many predators. Their bodies are mostly water, very fragile compared to ours. But their brains—" She paused, looking at her data pad. "Their brains are complex. They think differently than we do." "How so?" asked Vrax. "They imagine things that do not exist. They tell stories. They believe in invisible forces and beings. And they are extremely social. They form strong bonds with each other." Vrax thought about this. "Perhaps that is why they are dangerous. They are unpredictable." "Sir," interrupted Officer Lenz, "we have detected a problem. A human observatory may have noticed something unusual in our position." "Impossible," said Vrax. "Our cloaking technology is beyond their abilities." "Yes, sir, but they are running repeated scans of this area. It seems they noticed the gravity effect of our ship." Vrax stood up quickly. "Move our position. We cannot risk detection." At NASA headquarters, Bill Evans looked at the data Peter had sent him. Something wasn't right. Whatever was up there was massive, but invisible to most instruments. He picked up his phone. "General Rogers? This is Bill Evans from NASA. I think you should see this." The next day, Peter arrived at the observatory to find 2 military vehicles parked outside. A tall woman in an Air Force uniform was waiting for him. "Dr. Johnson, I'm Colonel Linda West. We need to talk about what you found last night." Peter felt his heart beat faster. "So it wasn't a glitch?" Colonel West's face was serious. "No, it wasn't. Please come with me." Inside the observatory, several military personnel were working with the equipment. Nancy was already there, looking worried. "What's going on?" Peter asked. "Dr. Johnson, your observatory detected something very important." Colonel West explained. Something that shouldn't be there. You mean like a UFO? Peter almost laughed, but stopped when he saw the colonel's expression. I'm not at liberty to say exactly what we think it is, but yes, we believe you found something not from Earth. On the Zorlian ship, alarms were sounding. Commander, Lenz shouted. The humans are actively searching for us now. They have pointed multiple detection devices at our position. Vrax hit the console with one of his fists. How is this possible? Their technology should not be able to find us. Unknown, sir, but they are using methods we didn't expect. They seem to be looking for gravity distortions rather than our ship itself. Clever, Vrax admitted. They cannot see us, so they look for our effect on space. What are your orders, sir? Asked Lenz. Vrax thought for a moment. Move to the dark side of their moon. We need time to think, and send a message to the Council. The humans are more resourceful than we thought. Back on Earth, things were moving. Quickly. In a secure underground facility, military and scientific leaders from around the world gathered for an emergency meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, began General Frank Rogers, it appears we are not alone. Based on Dr. Johnson's discovery and our follow-up scans, we believe there is an alien ship observing Earth. The room filled with nervous murmurs. What do they want? Asked someone. We don't know, replied the general. But given history, we should prepare for the worst. Dr. Diana Gray, a leading astrobiologist, raised her hand. General, you said given history. Does that mean this has happened before? General Rogers looked around the room, then nodded slowly. What I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest level. This is not the first alien contact with Earth. There have been others going back decades. Each time we've managed to repel them. Peter couldn't believe what he was hearing. You're saying we fought aliens before? How did we win? Why doesn't anyone know about this? The general's face was grim. We won because humans are different from them. We think differently. We fight differently. And we kept it secret because we had to. Panic wouldn't help anyone. In the shadow of the moon, Commander Vrax received a message from the Galactic Council. He read it with growing concern. What did they say, sir? Asked Mira. They're sending a battle fleet, Vrax replied quietly. The Council has decided that Earth is too dangerous to simply observe. They want it neutralized. But we haven't even made contact yet, protested Mira. We don't know why the other missions failed. Vrax looked at the beautiful blue planet. That's exactly why they're worried. The unknown is frightening. And humans are very unknown to us. What neither Vrax nor the humans knew was that they were about to discover why no one returns from attacking Earth. And the answer would change the galaxy forever. 3 days after the discovery of the alien ship, Sub-Commander Krall stood before Commander Vrax on the bridge. Krall was younger than most officers, with ambition that often clouded his judgment. Commander, with all respect, we must take action, Krall insisted. Just watching the humans teaches us nothing about why our forces fail against them. Vrax's 4 eyes narrowed. The Council ordered observation only. The battle fleet won't arrive for 30 days, Krall argued. By then the humans will be fully alert. I propose a small team goes to the surface. We capture a few humans, study them, and return before the fleet arrives. Vrax shook his head. Too dangerous. What danger? They are primitive. Our personal shields can stop their weapons. 5 of us could easily capture specimens without being detected. Vrax considered this. The Council wanted answers. If they understood humans better, perhaps conflict could be avoided. No, Vrax decided finally. We follow orders. Krall seemed to accept this, but his eyes showed disappointment. That night, while Commander Vrax slept, Krall gathered 4 loyal crew members in the shuttle bay. The commander is too cautious, Krall told them. When we bring back humans for study, he will thank us. The Council will reward us. The small team boarded a shuttle and left the main ship. They headed toward a quiet area on the planet, a place with few human settlements. In rural Iowa, Steve Baker walked through his cornfields as the sun was setting. At 56, he had spent 30 years in the Army before returning to take over his family farm. The military had changed him, made him alert to things others might miss, like the strange light that just appeared over his western field. Steve watched as something large and silver descended silently among his cornstalks. It was no airplane or helicopter. It made no sound at all. Instead of running toward his house to call for help, Steve moved quietly through the corn rows. Years of combat had taught him to assess threats before acting. In his jacket pocket was a pistol he always carried when checking his property at night. Inside the alien shuttle, Crowell prepared his team. Remember, humans are fragile. Use minimal force. We need them alive and undamaged for study. The 5 aliens activated their personal shields, invisible energy fields that could stop bullets and absorb energy weapons. Their silver skin glistened as they stepped out onto Earth for the first time. The night air felt strange, richer in oxygen than they were used to. The gravity was stronger too, making their movement slightly slower. They spread out, scanning for humans. Steve crouched low, watching the silver beings move through his corn. They were tall, nearly 7 feet, with 4 arms and large, bulbous heads. He had seen many things in his years of service, but nothing like this. He reached slowly for his phone to call his old friend at the Pentagon when one of the aliens turned suddenly in his direction. A beam of blue light shot from a device in the alien's hand, hitting the ground near Steve's feet. He rolled to the side as another beam came closer. They had spotted him. Crowell saw the human male trying to hide. "Take him," he ordered 2 of his team. Gently. The aliens moved with confidence, certain their shields would protect them from anything the primitive human might do. They were unprepared for what happened next. Steve had been in worse situations. Baghdad, 2004. Afghanistan, 2010. He knew when he was outmatched, but he also knew how to survive. As the first alien reached for him, Steve fired his pistol. The bullet hit the alien's shield and bounced off, just as Steve expected it might. But the sound of the gunshot was what Steve wanted, loud enough to be heard at his neighbor's house half a mile away. The alien seemed surprised by the noise. Steve used that moment to throw himself backward, rolling through the corn as more blue beams cut through the plants around him. "Careful," Crowell shouted to his team. "Don't damage the specimen." Steve reached the edge of the field where his old tractor sat. He scrambled under it, gaining precious moments to think. These things had some kind of shield that stopped bullets, but every shield had a weakness. The aliens spread out, surrounding the tractor. Their scanners showed the human, hiding beneath it. "Come out, human," Crowell called in perfect English thanks to their translation technology. "We will not harm you." Steve didn't respond. He was reaching for the can of gasoline he kept near the tractor. "Final warning," Crowell said. "Come out now." Steve unscrewed the cap on the gas can, took a deep breath, and acted. He splashed gasoline toward the nearest alien, followed by a lit match from his pocket. The shield stopped the liquid, but the fumes ignited in the air around the alien. The shield couldn't block the heat and lack of oxygen. The alien panicked, its shield failing as it struggled to breathe. Steve used the confusion to roll out the other side of the tractor and sprint toward his barn. Crowell was shocked. How did this primitive creature know to attack with fire? The personal shields were designed to stop solid objects and energy, not heat transfer. "After him," Crowell ordered, but he was more cautious now. In the barn, Steve grabbed his shotgun and something else, a small radio. He turned it on, setting it to the emergency frequency he knew the military monitored. "Mayday, Mayday. This is Captain Steve. Baker, retired, ID number 87652. 5 hostiles on my property, not human. Repeat, not human. Coordinates 41.67 north, 93.58 west. Send help immediately." Outside the barn, Crowell and his team approached carefully. One of them was still trying to recover from the fire attack. "Surround the structure," Crowell ordered. "Use stun settings only." Inside the ship orbiting Earth, Commander Vrax woke to alarms. "Report," he demanded as he rushed to the bridge. "Sir, Sub-Commander Crowell took a shuttle to the surface," reported Officer Lentz. "They're engaged with a human." Vrax felt cold fear. "Bring them back, now!" "We can't, sir. They're not responding to signals. At the Pentagon, an officer rushed into General Rogers' office. "Sir, we have a situation in Iowa. One of our retired captains is reporting alien contact." General Rogers stood quickly. "Get Colonel West on the line and prep the special response team." In the barn, Steve heard the aliens approaching. He knew he couldn't win against all of them, but he didn't need to. He just needed to survive long enough for help to arrive. One of the aliens entered through the barn door. Steve fired the shotgun. The pellets bounced off the shield, but the force pushed the alien back. Steve fired again and again, driving the alien outside. Another alien crashed through the wooden wall. Steve swung his shotgun like a club, hitting the alien's shield. To his surprise, the alien stumbled. Their shield stopped projectiles but transferred kinetic energy. That was useful information. Kral watched his team struggling with this single human. How was this possible? Their technology was centuries ahead of Earth's. Their shields should make them invincible to primitive weapons. Yet this human fought like nothing Kral had ever seen. There was no fear in its eyes, only determination and something else. Was it anger? No. It was almost like the human was calculating, planning each move. "Enough!" Kral shouted. He adjusted his weapon to maximum stun and fired at the roof of the barn. The wooden structure began to collapse. Steve saw the beams falling and dove toward the door, but not fast enough. A heavy beam pinned his leg to the ground. Kral approached the trapped human, feeling victorious at last. "Now, specimen, you will come with us for study." Steve looked up at the alien and smiled. "I don't think so." In the distance, the sound of helicopters grew louder. Kral heard it too. "We must leave," he told his team. "Bring the human quickly." As two aliens reached for Steve, a spray of bullets hit the ground around them. Military helicopters appeared over the trees, spotlights cutting through the darkness. "This is the United States Air Force," a voice boomed from speakers. "Step away." From the American citizen, Kral realized their mission had failed. "Back to the shuttle, now!" His team retreated, but as Kral turned to follow, Steve grabbed one of his legs with surprising strength. "You're not going anywhere," Steve growled. Soldiers repelled from the helicopters surrounding the aliens. Their weapons looked different from normal military gear, specially designed based on previous alien encounters. As Kral struggled to free himself from the human's grip, he realized something that chilled him. The human was smiling. This creature, this primitive being, had planned this trap from the beginning. Now Kral understood why no one returned from Earth. And it was too late. Commander Vrax paced the bridge of his ship, his forearms clasped behind his back. The mission had gone terribly wrong. Sub-Commander Kral was captured by humans. 3 crew members were injured, and their shuttle barely escaped back to the main ship. "How could Kral be so foolish?" Vrax muttered. Officer Mira approached carefully. "Commander, the humans are broadcasting on all frequencies. They wish to talk." Vrax stopped pacing. "They want to negotiate?" "It seems so. They say they have Kral and want to arrange a meeting." This was unexpected. In all previous encounters, humans had simply fought until they won. They had never tried to communicate. "Put them through," Vrax ordered. A voice came through the ship's speakers. "This is General Frank Rogers of Earth's United Defense Council. We have your crew member. We propose a meeting to discuss his return and your intentions toward Earth." Vrax was surprised at how calm the human sounded. "This is Commander Vrax. Where do you suggest we meet?" "Neutral ground. The surface of your moon. We will bring your crew member. You may bring 2 guards. No weapons." Vrax looked at his officers. They seemed shocked at the human's ability to reach the moon so quickly. "Very well," Vrax agreed. "In 12 hours. At a secret military base in Nevada, Steve Baker sat across from the alien called Kral. The alien was secured to a chair with special restraints, his shield device removed. Between them sat General Rogers and Dr. Diana Gray. "He hasn't said a word since we brought him in," General Rogers told Steve. Steve studied the alien. "You understand us, don't you? You're just being stubborn." Krall's 4 eyes focused on Steve. You are not what we expected. Dr. Gray leaned forward. What did you expect? Primitive beings, easy prey. Krall's voice was cold. You are the anomaly in our records. 17 species have tried to claim Earth. None returned. We came to learn why. And now you know. Steve said simply. No, Krall replied. I know only that one human fighter disabled 3 of my team. I still don't understand how. General Rogers smiled slightly. Maybe we'll explain at the moon meeting. 12 hours later, a small Earthship landed on the lunar surface. It was not as elegant as the alien vessels, but it was sturdy and well-built. From it emerged General Rogers, Dr. Gray, and 2 soldiers escorting Krall. They stood waiting as a sleek silver shuttle descended from orbit. Commander Vrax stepped out with 2 guards. The 2 groups faced each other on the airless surface, communicating through radio in their spacesuits. Commander Vrax? General Rogers nodded. Thank you for meeting us. Vrax's 4 eyes took in the human ship. Your technology has advanced since our last scans. We adapt quickly when needed, Rogers replied. Especially when we know we're being watched. Vrax looked at Krall. My officer acted without permission. His actions do not represent the Galactic Council. Yet they reveal your intentions, Dr. Gray said. You came to study us before the invasion fleet arrives. Vrax was startled. How? Do you know about the fleet? Steve Baker, monitoring the meeting from Earthbase, smiled as he watched the aliens' reaction. Their intel from the captured shuttle had been correct. On the moon, General Rogers continued. We know more than you. Think, Commander. We've been preparing for this day for generations. Preparing, Vrax asked. But your technology is still primitive compared to ours. Technology isn't everything, Dr. Gray explained. Krall learned that when he faced one retired soldier. They led Vrax to a small meeting dome they had set up. Inside, they could remove their helmets and talk more easily. Let me tell you why no one returns from Earth, General Rogers began. It's not just our weapons or defenses. It's us, humans. Dr. Gray activated a small projector showing Earth's history. Our planet is harsh by galactic standards. Higher gravity, extreme weather, countless predators. We evolved to survive constant threats. Many species evolved in harsh environments, Vrax countered. Yes, but most reach a point where they eliminate their predators, control their environment, and live in peace. Dr. Gray continued. Humans never stopped fighting. Even when we mastered our world, we fought each other. Vrax watched images of human wars throughout history. You see this as an advantage? It made us who we are, Rogers said. War is terrible, but it forced us to innovate, adapt, and overcome impossible odds. When aliens first came to Earth 50 years ago, we were outmatched in every way. Except one, Dr. Gray added. Human determination. Vrax remembered the reports. The first alien visitors came seeking resources. They expected no resistance from such a primitive world. They were wiped out completely. You destroyed them with inferior weapons? Vrax asked. We captured one of their ships, Rogers explained. Studied it. Copied what we could. When the next group came, we were better prepared. Each encounter taught us more, Dr. Gray said. We reversed engineered technology, prepared defenses, created protocols for first contact. Krall, who had been silent, finally spoke. This is why the farmer knew to use fire against our shields. Steve Baker wasn't just any farmer, Rogers smiled. He was a combat veteran who helped develop anti-shield tactics after our third alien encounter. Vrax was beginning to understand. You've been fighting a secret war against the galaxy for decades. Not by choice, Rogers said firmly. We never attacked anyone. We only defended ourselves. And now, a full battle fleet approaches, Vrax said. They will not underestimate you as Krall did, which is why we're talking now, Dr. Gray replied. We don't want war, Commander, we never did. Back on the Earth base, Steve watched the conversation with interest. The aliens were finally beginning to understand. On the moon, Vrax considered everything he had learned. The Council believes Earth is a threat that must be eliminated. Your ability to defeat technologically superior forces makes you too dangerous. Or makes us valuable allies, Rogers suggested. Vrax looked surprised. Allies? We've studied your language and culture from the captured shuttle, Dr. Gray explained. The Galactic Council faces many threats. The Zorlians are peaceful by nature, but others in the galaxy are not. You offer an alliance? Vrax asked. After we plan to invade? We offer a choice, Rogers said. Help us contact the Council. Explain what you've learned. Tell them that attacking Earth will only result in more loss like the 17 times before. Vrax looked at the humans carefully. They were confident despite knowing a battle fleet approached. Either they were foolish, or they had resources he didn't understand. And if the Council refuses? Vrax asked. Rogers's face became serious. Then, they will finally learn why no one returns from attacking Earth. The meaning was clear. Vrax had a decision to make. Continue with the invasion plans, or try to prevent a war that would reveal just how dangerous humans truly were. For the first time in his long career, Commander Vrax felt afraid. Not of these humans, but of what would happen when they were pushed too far. 2 weeks after the moon meeting, Commander Vrax stood before a holographic projection of the Galactic Council. The 5 council elders looked down at him with their large, multicolored eyes. Their disappointment was clear. You suggest we abandon our plans to neutralize Earth? Asked Elder Zith, the oldest and most respected member. Yes, Elder, Vrax replied firmly. After careful study, I believe attacking Earth would be a grave mistake. Because of what happened to Krall's team? Asked another elder. One failure does not mean the battle fleet will fail. Vrax took a deep breath. It's not just one failure. It's 17. 17 species tried to conquer Earth. All were defeated by humans. The elders murmured among themselves. This information was troubling. And now, Vrax continued, the humans know we are coming. They have had time to prepare. What makes these humans so dangerous? Demanded Elder Zith. Their technology is primitive. Their world is small and divided. Vrax activated a data screen showing the information Dr. Gray had shared. Humans evolved on a death world. High gravity, extreme weather, dangerous predators. They had to become strong and clever just to survive. Many species come from harsh worlds, an elder countered. Yes, but humans never stopped fighting, Vrax explained. Even after they controlled their planet, they fought each other. War is in their nature. They've been at war for most of their history. The elders looked disturbed by this. In the peaceful galactic community, war was rare and usually short. More importantly, Vrax added, humans adapt quickly. After each alien encounter, they learned and improved. They've been reverse engineering alien technology for decades. They're much more advanced than our scans showed. You believe they could defeat our battle fleet? Asked Elder Zith. Vrax paused. I believe the cost would be too high, even if we won. The council chamber fell silent. The elders conferred privately for several minutes before addressing Vrax again. The battle fleet will continue its mission, Elder Zith announced finally. Earth is too dangerous to leave alone. However, we will send a message offering the humans a chance to surrender peacefully. Vrax tried to hide his disappointment. They will not surrender, elders. Then they will face the consequences, Elder Zith said coldly. You are dismissed, Commander. As the holographic connection ended, Vrax turned to Mira and Lenz, who had been waiting nearby. The Council has made their decision. We must prepare for war. What about Krall? Asked Mira. He's still with the humans. Vrax looked out the viewport at the blue planet below. The humans have agreed to return him once we share our Council's decision. I fear they already know what that decision will be. On Earth, in a conference room deep beneath the Pentagon, General Rogers addressed the United Defense Council. Representatives from 12 nations sat around a large table, their faces grave. Commander Vrax has informed us that the Galactic Council has rejected our offer of alliance, Rogers announced. Their battle fleet will arrive in 2 weeks. How many ships? asked the Chinese General Wu Feng. Over 300, replied Rogers. More than we've ever faced. Dr. Gray stood up and activated a large screen. Based on the data from Kral and the captured shuttle, these are the Zorlian ships we'll be facing. The screen showed sleek silver, vessels of various sizes. The largest was over a mile long. Their weapons are energy-based, much more powerful than anything we've encountered before, Dr. Gray explained. Their shields can absorb massive amounts of damage. Do they have any weaknesses? Asked the Russian representative. Steve Baker, who had been invited to the meeting because of his encounter with Kral, spoke up. Their personal shields have trouble with certain types of attacks, heat, gas, even physical force if applied correctly. The ship shields will be different, warned Dr. Gray, but we've learned that they use a similar technology, just scaled up. General Rogers pointed to a map showing Earth's orbital defenses. We've been preparing for this day for 50 years. Each alien encounter gave us more technology to adapt and improve. On the screen, hundreds of satellites and space stations appeared around Earth. Most were invisible to normal scans, disguised as communication satellites or space junk. Operation Shield Wall is now active, Rogers continued. Every nation has contributed resources and personnel. This is humanity's stand together. In space, Commander Vrax prepared his ship to rendezvous with the approaching battle fleet. As promised, the humans had returned Kral. The sub-commander seemed changed by his time on Earth. They're not what we thought, Kral told Vrax privately. They're not just violent creatures, they create art, music, literature. They care for their young and their old. They value life. Yet they prepare for war, Vrax noted. Only because we threaten them, Kral replied. I spoke with many humans during my captivity. They don't want to fight, but they will defend their home with everything they have. Vrax considered this. Do you believe they can win against the battle fleet? Kral's 4 eyes looked troubled. I don't know, but I know this. If they lose, it won't be because they surrendered. 10 days later, the galactic battle fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system. 297 warships moved in perfect formation, led by the massive dreadnought Starcleaver. On its bridge stood War Commander Drez, a veteran of a dozen planetary conquests. Report, Drez ordered his officers. The Earth defenders have noticed our arrival, replied his second-in-command. They're moving their primitive ships into defensive positions. Drez studied the tactical display. The humans had fewer than 50 space vessels, all much smaller than even the smallest galactic ships. This will be quick, Drez said with confidence. Send the surrender demand as the Council ordered, then prepare all ships for attack. The message was sent to Earth, surrender or be destroyed. The response came back almost immediately. On the bridge of the Starcleaver, Drez read the human reply with surprise. It was short and simple. We will not surrender. This is our home. Their choice is made, Drez announced to his crew. All ships, advance. The galactic battle fleet moved forward, entering the solar system. As they passed the orbit of Neptune, sensors detected movement. Commander, called a sensor officer, there are objects approaching from the outer planets. Human ships? Asked Drez. No, sir. They appear to be. The officer paused, looking confused. Asteroids, sir. Hundreds of them moving at high speed. Toward our fleet. Drez frowned. Asteroids don't move like that. Scan again. Before the officer could respond, the first asteroids reached the fleet. They exploded with tremendous force, revealing themselves to be disguised mines. Dozens of smaller galactic ships were damaged or destroyed. Evasive action, Drez shouted. All ships, raise shields to maximum. On Earth, General Rogers watched, the battle unfolding on giant screens. First phase successful, he reported. The outer system defenses have engaged. Steve Baker nodded. Now they know this won't be easy. The real battle for Earth was about to begin, and the galaxy was about to learn why no one returns from attacking humans. War Commander Drez stood on the bridge of the Starcleaver, watching as his once mighty fleet struggled against Earth's defenses. 3 days into the battle, he had lost nearly a third of his ships. The humans were fighting like nothing he had ever seen. How are they doing this? Dres demanded of his officers. Their technology should be no match for ours. His tactical officer looked up from her console. Sir, they're not just using their own technology. They've adapted weapons and defenses from at least 7 different alien species. Dres slammed his fist on the command table. The humans had turned the wreckage of previous invasion attempts into their own arsenal. Press the attack, he ordered. We still outnumber them. Get us closer to their planet. As the remaining galactic ships pushed forward, Earth launched its next defense. From hidden bases on Mars and the Moon, hundreds of small fighter craft emerged. They were piloted by the best human pilots from every nation. Steve Baker watched from the command center as the fighters engaged the alien fleet. Each human ship was equipped with weapons designed to exploit the weaknesses they had discovered. In alien shield technology, they're breaking through the outer defenses, reported a technician. General Rogers nodded grimly. It's time for Phase 3. In orbit around Earth, Commander Vrax watched the battle with growing concern. His ship had been ordered to remain on the edge of the conflict, observing but not participating. Beside him stood Kral and Mira. The humans are losing, Mira noted. The fleet is too powerful even with their preparations. No, Kral said quietly. Look closer. The humans are directing the battle fleet toward something. Vrax studied the tactical display. Kral was right. The human fighters weren't just attacking randomly. They were herding the galactic ships toward Earth's northern hemisphere. What are they planning? Vrax wondered aloud. On the surface of Earth, Dr. Diana Gray stood in a massive underground facility beneath the Arctic ice. Around her, hundreds of scientists and engineers monitored a weapon unlike any other on the planet. Power at 90%, announced one of the engineers. Targeting systems locked on the enemy flagship. Dr. Gray checked the final calculations. This weapon had been built using technology from all 17 previous alien encounters, combined with human ingenuity. They had only one shot. General Rogers, she spoke into her communicator. We're ready. In the command center, Rogers gave the order. Fire. The ice above the Arctic facility split open. A beam of blinding white energy shot upward into space, cutting through the atmosphere like a spear. On the Star Cleaver, alarms blared as sensors detected the energy surge. Evasive action, Dres shouted, but it was too late. The beam struck the flagship's shields. For a moment, it seemed the shields would hold. Then the energy began to change, adapting to the shield frequency, finding its way through. Impossible, Dres whispered as the beam pierced his ship. The Star Cleaver broke apart in a silent explosion that lit up Earth's night sky like a second sun. Debris scattered across space, damaging nearby galactic ships. The remaining fleet commanders were thrown into confusion. Their supreme leader was gone, their communication network disrupted. Commander Vrax knew this was the moment that would decide everything. He opened a channel to all remaining galactic ships. This is Commander Vrax. War Commander Dres is dead. As the senior officer, I am taking command. All ships cease fire immediately. There was hesitation, but one by one, the galactic ships stopped their attack. The human fighters pulled back, waiting. Commander, what are you doing? Mira asked, shocked. The Council ordered Earth's destruction. The Council was wrong, Vrax replied firmly. Look at what the humans have done. With primitive technology and sheer determination, they've destroyed half our fleet. If we continue, they will destroy the rest. Vrax opened a channel to Earth. General Rogers, this is Commander Vrax. I propose an immediate ceasefire and negotiations. In the command center, Rogers looked at Steve Baker and Dr. Gray. They both nodded. We accept, Rogers replied. But this time, we meet on Earth. 3 days later, Commander Vrax stood in the United Nations building in New York City. Around him sat representatives from every human nation and the commanders of the remaining galactic ships. It was the first official meeting between Earth and the Galactic Council. The humans have proven themselves, Vrax addressed the gathering. They have earned the right to join the galactic community, not as subjects, but as equals. The Council will not be pleased, said one of the alien commanders. The Council sent us to learn why no one returns from Earth, Vrax replied. Now we know. It's because humans don't just fight to win, they fight to survive. And when threatened, they unite in ways we cannot comprehend. Steve Baker, sitting with the Earth delegation, spoke up. We never wanted war. We just wanted to be left alone. Perhaps that is why you are so formidable, Vrax said thoughtfully. You fight only when necessary, but when you do, you commit everything to victory. Dr. Gray presented a data tablet to Vrax. We've prepared a peace proposal. We offer to share some of our adapted technologies in exchange for membership in the galactic community and a non-aggression pact. Vrax reviewed the proposal, surprised by its generosity. The humans could have demanded much more after their victory. I will take this to the Council, he promised. They must understand that Earth cannot be conquered. It can only be befriended. 1 month later, Vrax stood again before the Galactic Council. This time, General Rogers, Dr. Gray, and Steve Baker stood with him. We have verified Commander Vrax's report, Elder Zith announced to the gathered delegates from across the galaxy. Earth will be recognized as a protected world and offered provisional membership in the galactic community. The other elders nodded in agreement, though some did so reluctantly. Let this be known throughout the galaxy, Elder Zith continued. Earth is not to be threatened or invaded. The humans have earned their place among the stars through their courage and determination. As the formal ceremony concluded, Commander Vrax turned to Steve Baker. Now everyone knows why no one returns from attacking Earth. Steve smiled. It's simple, really. We Earthlings are stubborn. Push us too hard and we push back harder. A valuable lesson for the galaxy, Vrax agreed. One that cost many lives to learn. But hopefully the last such lesson needed, Dr. Gray added. Now we can explore the stars as friends, not enemies. The message spread quickly across the galaxy. Earth was no longer a mystery or a target. It was a world of warriors and innovators, artists and dreamers. A dangerous world to threaten, but a valuable one to befriend. And for the first time in galactic history, ships began returning from Earth, carrying not conquerors or invaders, but visitors, traders, and allies, forever changing both human and alien civilizations in ways no one could have imagined.